Angus, how good is Ebor form for a Melbourne Cup in your eyes?
I think it's very solid form, mate. This horse, I was just saying to some of the lads there, he's always had a touch of class. He was favourite for the St Leger as a 3-year-old, and he pulled too hard and ran himself into the ground, and we eventually had to geld him because he was just being a thug and a pest. But he's always had the talent there, and he really showed it that day at York. And so, if he can transfer that form to Tuesday, I think he'd have an outstanding chance.
How's he come down to Werribee and settled in here?
I think very well. I mean, this is the first time I've seen him since I got here. He looks all right. He looks a bit autumnal, like so many horses coming out of Europe at this time of year. But I know the lad who rides him says he feels every bit as good as before York, if not a little bit better to him. And obviously, he'd have had a better feel of him than I would. So let's hope he's right.
Of course, you've been with Sheikh Hamdan for 30-odd years and had Melbourne Cup success in the past. You're telling me Jeune back in 1994. Can you give us some comparison between a couple of the horses?
It's hard to say purely because we didn't own Jeune in Europe. We bought him as an older horse to come out here particularly. And Sheikh Hamdan, when I mentioned the horse to him, I said to him, would he like to buy this horse to go to Dubai? And he said straight away, that's the horse for Australia. And blow me down if he didn't win the Melbourne Cup. So, so I didn't know his form. He would have been a classier horse in Europe than Muntahaa. But as I say, Muntahaa on his day was a good horse. Jeune had a bit of, he had speed as well, although he used to pull very hard in Europe. But he came back on his next start after the Melbourne Cup and broke the track record in the CF4 over Group 1 over 1400. So that shows you the sort of class he had. He was just a fair dinkum good horse. So whether this horse is as good as that, I'm not sure. But his European form is good and solid, and his last run was the best he's ever put up in Europe. So if he's still on an upwards trajectory, he should run very well.
I guess the key then is how he measures up against the other horses here. In your mind, how does he figure?
I was just saying it's always hard to talk about other people's horses if you don't know them, and I'd hate to be disrespectful to anybody's horses. My gut feeling is our horse might have a little more class than some of them, but everything has to go right on the day. You've got to get the runs, the horse has got to be in good form and to have travelled well, so you never know. But a horse like Vintage Crop, for example, was just an absolute champion. I don't think people in Europe even realise what a classy horse he was. He was a stayer but with a turn of foot too, and was a champion horse. We've sent horses out before that have run in the Cup that wouldn't be within lengths of this horse. Jame, we ran yesterday trying to qualify him. He was third in the Lexus. He wouldn't be on his European form. He wouldn't be within lengths of this horse. So we'll see. Look, everything has to go right. You need all the luck. It's an incredibly competitive race, and it's just a huge thrill to be here trying.
Okay, just tell us a little bit about John Gosden, because we know we've heard the talk about how good a trainer he is, but in New Zealand we're a little bit removed. So can you just tell us, in your opinion, how good a trainer is he?
Oh, there's a question then. Look. I've been lucky enough for 32 years. I've worked for Sheikh Hamdan. I've worked with some great trainers and watched, obviously, great trainers all around the world. All I can say is he's certainly the best I've worked with. I'm not going to say he's better than anybody else, but I'll never work with a more professional man. His attention to detail is extraordinary. His breadth of knowledge. He only has one problem: he's too bright. But it'd be a nice problem to have. I wish I had it. No, he's a great man. He's a good friend of mine, obviously, now after so many years working together. But he and his team are extraordinary. I mean, what they've done this year with that filly who just won today in America is one of the great training feats of all time for me. To bring her back off the interrupted preparation she's had 3 races and won an Arc and a Breeders' Cup. It's extraordinary. So every confidence in the team.
Having tasted that Melbourne Cup success, 24 odd years ago, how special would it be to do it again on Tuesday?
It would be more special purely because I know how difficult it is now. Like always in life, when the longer you have to wait for something, the more you appreciate the effort that goes into it from so many people, and you need all the luck, and you're travelling a horse all this way. And Jeune was, for me, the most special day of my racing career, just to come a long way away and to win one of the biggest races in the world. So if we were lucky enough to do it again, it would be extraordinary. But I'm old enough and ugly enough to realise, a lot of things have to go right. So we'll just take what comes.